You're listening to the Whole Hog Sports Podcast. And now, here's your host, Matt Jones.
We're a little over 48 hours away from Arkansas playing in the Sweet 16 against Arizona out in San Jose. It's going to be an 8:45 p.m. Central tip-off time on Thursday night. Game's going to be televised by CBS. Razorbacks and the Wildcats. Winner of that game will play the winner of Texas and Purdue in the Elite Eight on Saturday. Ethan Westerman made his way down to San Jose yesterday. Ethan, enjoying the West Coast yet?
Oh, yeah, we got in pretty late last night, but got some good sleep. Woke up at a little bit before 6:30 local time here and went for a 10-mile run. So that's how you know I'm feeling good, enjoying the West Coast. The weather's nice. As you can see behind me, there's some palm trees for those that are watching the podcast. Yeah, it's nice out here, enjoying California so far.
It's kind of interesting the way this is all working out, where it feels like, I don't know, it almost felt like it was destined for Arkansas to advance, and that sounds weird, I know, but it's like there were all of these plans that were put in place. Like I know I was talking to somebody about the basketball team and their plans. I mean, like they had kind of this plan in place to go to Sacramento already. I think even before the Portland trip, was over. I don't know. It's weird how this has all worked out. How San Jose to Portland, it is a long way, but relatively speaking, it could be a lot worse. I mean, they could be going from Buffalo to San Jose like they did, or I guess it was Buffalo to San Francisco like they did a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same time zone here at least. It does seem like it was a very and you have to do that, I think, with just the logistics of planning for round to round, to have a plan to know what you're going to do. And whenever you're in the West region and you know that San Jose would be the next stop, there does need to be a plan for, if you win. So yeah, they got on the road pretty quick, I think, after beating High Point. I say got on the road. I'm pretty sure they probably flew. I don't
they
know
got
the
in the
whole
air.
logistics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they actually hit the road for Sacramento, because that is a lengthy drive. But yeah, it does feel like it was just kind of destined to be this matchup, and you always do this when you get the bracket, is look at potential, Sweet 16 clashes. And it just kind of felt like Arkansas, Arizona was kind of a collision course waiting to happen, here in San Jose.
As far as what Arkansas is doing in Sacramento this week, from what you understand, what is it?
Yeah, I really think that they're, just spending some time to practice there. I don't really know exactly why they didn't come all the way to San Jose, but I know that they went to, a Kings game. Got to watch Malik Monk drop a season high in front of his old coach. Calipari was sitting courtside, so that was probably pretty cool. I don't really know exactly why they went to Sacramento instead of all the way here, but maybe it's nice to be just a little bit away, before the official stuff starts here, because we got the schedule yesterday for, the activities that are going to happen in San Jose. Arkansas will have a practice in the arena at 11:55 a.m. Tomorrow local time here, so I guess that's math is hard. Would they be practicing at 1:55 p.m.
add 2 hours
Central? Yeah, it's hard whenever you're going from AM to PM. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's really not that hard. But then they'll have their press conferences afterward. And then, then Thursday hits and it's go time from there. But yeah, I think that they might be getting to San Jose tonight, I would think, is when they would be getting there.
When it comes to your game day, you want the best in your lineup. That includes your eggs. Eggland's Best delivers more of the nutrition you need with 6 times more vitamin D and 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. You can score now with Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. For more information, visit egglandsbest.com. Our show also brought to you today in part by Bentonville Glass. They've been serving their community since 1971. They're committed, professional, and versatile. If you're looking for skilled craftsmanship, choose Bentonville Glass for all your glass market needs with the highest quality products. You can come by and see them at 507 South Main in Bentonville or online at bentonvilleglass.com. When you look at this, Ethan, you were talking about the schedule this week. It's basically just kind of a repeat, especially with them playing on Thursday night, of what they did in Portland. I mean, it's you got kind of the practice media day on Wednesday, play the game on Thursday. If you're fortunate enough to move on, you rinse and repeat Friday and Saturday, and obviously Saturday would be the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, and really the only, difference as you get to this round, and there's just less teams that are going to be in the building. There's half of
Mm-hmm.
what you had over at Portland because, you get to a regional final, and it's just 4 teams left in each region. So it is very similar to what happened last week, but it does feel like there's a bigger spotlight on each specific team that's there. It feels kind of at those first and second round sites that with 8 teams there, it's kind of like they're trying to hit all the publicity on these 8 that are there, but it can be difficult whenever they're coming in and out. With these 4 teams this week that are coming, like Texas, Arkansas, Purdue, and Arizona will all have a lot of eyes on them. And the practice times are actually longer at the arena this week. In Portland, it kind of felt like, the quote unquote practice that media got to see was really just a glorified shoot around. It was just get some shots up, get a feel for maybe the backdrop in the arena, the lighting, it was kind of just for the fans. So here in San Jose, there's going to be a practice for them from 11:55 a.m. to 11:40 p.m., which is a lot longer than they practiced, in the Trailblazers arena. And only the first 15 minutes of that are open to media. So it's really going to be a legit practice, I think, out there tomorrow. But we won't get to see, probably 15 minutes of stretching and getting some shots up.
Arizona, they're a program they're really good. I mean, and under Tommy Lloyd, they've been accustomed to the spotlight too. But I wonder, from an Arkansas perspective, like doesn't it feel like this is just kind of expected at this point? Like when Musselman, whatever he was in 2021, and I'll talk to you about 21 here in a second because I know you've been working on something about that. But in 21, when they went to the Sweet 16, it was the first time they'd been there in 25 years. They go back in 22, go back in 23, they go back last year in Calipari's first year, and now this is 5 times in 6 seasons. It feels like it has a lot different feeling now than it did, 4 or 5 years ago when there was this real novelty to Arkansas being in the Sweet 16 because it had been so long since they were. And I know there's a lot of players on this year's team that weren't part of last year's team. There are some who were part of that run too. But I don't know, it just feels like it's the expectation now, and maybe the moment isn't going to be too big for Arkansas. Arizona might be really good, and Arizona might beat them, but I don't think they're going to be intimidated by the moment.
Yeah, I don't think so either, especially whenever you have 2 freshmen who every time there's been an opportunity for a moment to be too big for them, it hasn't been. And then you would combine that with a bunch of returners. I think that, we've gotten to a point with Arkansas. I think that maybe the only other teams to have 5 out of the past 6 years Sweet 16s is, I think, Alabama and Houston. I think that's the list. And I turned to Matt Zimmerman, was a longtime assistant coach, was a manager for the Razorbacks, does the radio now. Everybody knows who he is. But I turned to him after the game on whatever day that was, Saturday, losing track of days out here. But and I just, he just mentioned 5 out of the past 6. And he said that's just the way it should be at Arkansas. And, I think that that's kind of where we've gotten to is I think Arkansas does expect to be a program that is playing on the second weekend with a lot more on the line. And now I guess the next step is just how deep of a run can you make? I think that, the success to get, you can't take for granted how difficult that is to make this many Sweet 16s in the past 6 years. That's really hard in today's climate, and it's been over 2 different coaching staffs. So you don't want to discredit how tough that is, but now I guess the next level is, can you make it back to the Final Four? Because that's where Arkansas hasn't been in a long time.
What do you think the matchup is going to be like against Arizona? Because as I watched them play, number one, if you look at my bracket, I picked Arizona to win the national championship this year. I've been very impressed with them. I've said that here on this show. I think they've looked like the best team in the country consistently throughout the season. But as I watched them play Utah State the other day, there certainly was not this air of invincibility about them. They beat Long Island up pretty good in the first round, but Utah State gave them a game, and it was a 4-point game with about 2 or 3 minutes left. It feels like Arkansas's got a good chance, especially when you take the rest into consideration. Maybe they get Nick Pringle back, and they're going to need all the big bodies they can get to play against Arizona. I wonder how you think that this matchup looks, at least on paper.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the Sweet 16 matchups, this is maybe the juiciest of them. It's just. I think that Arkansas might be whenever you look at the bracket and you're dissecting, who are the 4 or 5 seeds who are the most dangerous. I think that maybe I think it's not even that debatable. People would have probably penciled in Arkansas as one of the more dangerous 4 seeds in the whole bracket, but they've got maybe the best 1 seed
Mm-hmm.
that now they, of course, are meeting in the Sweet 16 because Arizona has been very good this year. Only have 2 losses, and they came within a span of like, I don't even remember, just a few days. It was at Fog Allen and then at home to Texas Tech when JT
Mm-hmm.
Toppin went off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a team that just knows how to win. And I just saw another team, High Point, that any team that knows how to win is dangerous. And so I think that this is a matchup that certainly, Arizona should be favored in it. They will be favored in it, but it's not like you said, they're not invincible, I don't think. They have some vulnerabilities. It's going to take Arkansas playing a great game. But I mean, John Calipari said this on Pat McAfee this morning. This isn't like the NBA when you get to March Madness. It is one game. It could be a blessing. Ask, High Point right now, how they're feeling. That, who knows if they would have beaten Wisconsin. I think that they were good enough to beat them. If you play a 7-game series, maybe you win it. But it's also can be a curse. If you go down in history, there's been a lot of teams that really maybe 9 times out of 10 they beat a team, but they caught them on the wrong day. I don't think that the gap is that wide between Arkansas and Arizona. I think that it's going to take Arkansas playing a really good game, but also Arizona is beatable. I think that's you definitely could see that against Utah State. But it's gonna take a lot of things going right for the Razorbacks.
Arizona's on a team, I think, that just attempts a ton of threes, right? I mean, they're really, really, I guess, conscious about putting the ball down in the low post and letting all these big international players they have go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at this matchup and you're like, Arkansas scores 90 points a game, Arizona scores 86, and neither team, they're both good at shooting the three. Like Arkansas shoots almost 39%, Arizona's 36%, both good, numbers there, but neither team like needs it, if that makes sense. Whenever Arkansas's hitting its threes, it's like they can beat anybody. But they don't necessarily have to rely on it. This is going to be a game that, it's going to be interesting to see if Arkansas can really get out in transition and get some easy buckets. It's going to be interesting to see if Arizona can just pound it inside and go to work. It's going to be I think, a fun battle because it's a contrast of, styles, but not lacking any talent. These teams play kind of different ways. But it's that you've got just elite players on both sides. It's a fun matchup. And I think that, it's going to come down to whatever team can, play better defense.
And of course, we'll see if they're matched up against each other the way that Acuff and Wright were the other night in the second round game. But you got 2 conference players of the year. You got Acuff for Arkansas and Jaden Bradley, who I think he began his career at Alabama. He was the Big 12 player of the year for Arizona.
Yeah, and he, watching that Utah State game, he was kind of the guy that anytime like you needed somebody to just kind of calm things down, end a run, it was like Bradley came up with a big play, which is what you want out of a veteran guard. He kind of seemed to me like what's interesting about both of these teams, I think they have certified stars, and they also have guys who can take over at any given moment. And it feels like Bradley, has obviously got that star power to him, but he can also, whenever you have such dynamic freshmen like Braden Burries, Koa Pete, it's like sometimes he even takes like a little bit of, I guess, a back seat as far as the pub. But, he's one who could certainly, steady the ship, calm things down for them. That's going to be a fun matchup at the guard spots.
What's interesting to me is that I look at Arizona's roster. You and I were talking about this earlier. I think they have more international players, Ethan, than they have players from the U.S. I mean, you look at where all these guys are from. You got a player from the Netherlands, Australia, going down further, Germany, and that's one of their really good ones, Kurchenkov. You got a player from England, Lithuania, another one of their really good ones, Krivos. You've got a player from the Senegal. You got a player from South Sudan. You've got a player from France. It seems like, they put a lot of emphasis on going overseas and finding, not just players, but they're finding a lot of height from overseas too.
Yeah, they sure are. And Arkansas is going to have to be ready to rebound, because that's whenever you look at these teams, just the height stands out of Arizona and the rebound margin. They're plus 11 per game. That is, I actually haven't gone to see what that ranks in, among all Division I teams, but it's got to be up there. And, you're watching that game against Utah State, and Krivos was just massive for them. 14 rebounds. It felt like anytime Utah State needed to get a stop and, maybe extend a run, Krivas was cleaning up the offensive glass and ending all hope. It was like that dude just kind of took over. It's like that's the thing. They have quite a few players that aren't necessarily flashy, but boy, do they play their role.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of these, international players that bring that size. It's a really complete team for Arizona.
Well, and I think it reminds you a lot of Florida, right? I mean, that's what Florida was this year. And they got beat the other day, but and Arkansas had so much trouble against Florida and their height and their length and their athleticism inside during that game. I would have to, and I know they're different teams, but I would have to think that Arkansas goes back and looks at some things that happened during that Florida game in preparation for this.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can't have a repeat of that playing against size. I mean, you're gonna have to. Big men are gonna have to bring their best rebounding game. They're just gonna have to. And Arkansas is gonna have to make some shots too. I mean, this time of year, that's a lot of what it boils down to: who's making shots. But Arizona is a hard team to find holes. If that's the thing, that's the thing about them. It's hard to pinpoint one thing that you're like, oh, maybe exploit that. Maybe exploit this. It's just they're really good in a lot of different categories. And I think it's going to take Arkansas, making a lot of shots and playing its best game too. Because I will say, Arizona, it's hard to find holes. I do think that, anytime a team plays Arkansas this year, there's a good chance you haven't played a team that's as fast and as athletic and as, they don't give much. They don't turn the ball over much. And that's such a big part of games this time of year. So I think that, maybe Arkansas could, hit them early with a little bit of a shock factor with athleticism and speed and all that stuff. And maybe that's a window that you find that crease of how you're going to win. But it's hard on paper to see where Arizona's really even vulnerable.
And of course you got Acuff, and he's part of that speed and athleticism too. I feel like that is a different, and I'm not saying he's the fastest guard, but there's a combination there with him that I think probably is really unique to himself that Arizona may have not seen. They played some good teams this year. They played Kansas. Obviously, they've got they played Debansa from BYU. So I mean, they've seen high profile, lottery type picks this year. But I don't know. I feel like there's a style that Acuff plays that's very unique to himself.
Yeah, and Acuff is the type that can take over any game. That's the thing. He can make and create his own shot. So I think that you look at this matchup in Arkansas, if they get off to a fast start and Arizona's doing some things uncharacteristic, not shooting the ball well, and Acuff is taking over, that's whenever this thing really changes, I think, is whenever you can maybe set a tone from the start. I've got coughs right now going on out here.
You're getting used to the
goodness gracious.
Getting used to the weather. Hey, so this is a hockey arena, right? That they play in the home of the Sharks.
Yeah, it is, and it looks like everything else over here. Super techie. That was the main. Last year we went to San Francisco, and this year just across the bay in San Jose. The flight in here, I was like, oh my goodness, the amount of just how techie everything feels in San Jose stands out different from San Francisco. Like San Francisco kind of had that kind of old feel to a lot of things. It's like they've protected how things have always been. And then you fly into San Jose, you're like, oh my goodness, everything here looks super modern. Definitely can tell I'm in that area of California where they love their technology. And this arena itself looks very high tech. I haven't, obviously been inside yet. We'll get to do that tomorrow. But I'm just curious to see what this arena is like, because from the outside, it looks like I'm walking into a futuristic arena.
Well, and the Warriors arena kind of has that feel too.
Yeah, Chase Center was definitely like that. That was like the thing. There were some parts of San Francisco where you could get that feel, like, of course, the Chase Center and some other things over there. But it's like San Jose, everything here is like super modern looking. It's like you definitely get that feel that you're, in the part of California where technology rules.
I was just thinking, back to the hockey point. I mean, I don't know if this is like a good omen or anything, but the arena in Nashville where they won the SEC tournament, that's a hockey arena. They certainly seem to play well there.
Yeah, and they also, I guess this is last year's team. I get everything mixed up. I was about to say in Providence, that was a hockey arena.
Oh, was it really?
They don't have. Yeah, they don't. Well, it's kind of multi-purpose, but it was cold. You could tell the hockey was definitely, a thing there. The Moda Center, that's just basketball though. So, I'm trying to think what other hockey arenas they might have even played in this year. They played in the one that the New Jersey Devils play in, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they played Houston there, and of course, the day they played Texas Tech down at the American Airlines Center, they actually turned the arena, and that night the Stars played a game in there. So I guess there is a little bit of hockey basketball
Yeah.
overlap. Hey, I wanted to ask
Let
you.
me tell you.
Go ahead.
Oh, real quick, I was just gonna say Moda Center. They might not be a hockey arena, but they kept that thing chilly in there. There was no better feeling than walking out of there, so I could finally warm up in the P&W weather outside.
Do you like having a basketball arena that's cold or hot? Because like when remember when Mike Anderson was coach at Arkansas, like I can't prove this, but I'm quite certain that they turned the heat up in that building versus what it had been when John Pelfrey was there. I think it was like the combination of their style of play, and they tried to make the other team sweat a little bit more when they came to their arena.
I like an arena to be a little on the warmer side than the cold. I don't want to be chilly. And if I'm chilly in an arena, I'm not having a good time. Also, that goes back to just like I feel like high school basketball gyms, like growing up, like they were always just old in and especially in the summer, the AC didn't work very well. It's like basketball gyms are made to be hot.
Yeah.
But of course, these big professional ones, it's a huge facility, and I mean, we're in tunnels and all this stuff, and it's like whatever they did in the Moda Center, they made me. I was so ready to get outside every single time that we got done with something there.
Hey, I want to ask you real quick before we get out of here about two stories that you've been working on. First, I teased this a second ago. You've got something coming up in Hogs Illustrated about that 2021 run and just how unique of a week that was, or 2 weeks that was, for the team being quarantined in Indianapolis. What did you learn?
Yeah, I really learned how miserable their bubble experience was. I was expecting, them to, I didn't expect it to be like glamorous or anything, but they really could not leave their rooms, and they didn't have roommates, which honestly, for me being an introvert most of the time, that sounds phenomenal. But the thing is, it's like they weren't getting like sunshine and air other than this 1 hour a day that they would go out to the minor league baseball park that, at first teams had to like sign up for their hour of what they called yard time. That's what I guess Eric Musselman called it, was yard time, where they, throw frisbees, play kickball, whatever. And then as the tournament progressed and teams got eliminated, it was more available. But these players looked forward to that hour every day just so they could breathe some air that wasn't their hotel room. And they were also at the start of the bubble getting like the NCAA had like, I guess like or maybe it was the hotel, one of the two, had a set menu like you could get, and it was like all fast food options. They were getting like Wendy's 4-for-4 bags delivered to their hotel rooms. And it was like by the time it got there, they had no clue how long it been sitting out, and it was gross, so they started door dashing stuff players did. Then the thing that I took away most from this story though is it was like they went straight from SEC tournament to Indianapolis that year, and that team spent so much time together. Obviously not whenever they're isolated in their hotel rooms, but between the bus and all the other stuff they got to do at the bubble. It's like by the end of their season, it was a weird year in general, to be coming in as transfers, with all the COVID guidelines and stuff. But like they really got to bond closest at the time of year when it mattered the most. And it's kind of what fueled them, I think, was that they felt by the end of the year, they were all really close. And it was from all this just like crazy, experiences that nobody's ever, well, let's hope, ever have to go through again.
Yeah, let's
hope.
hope.
The NCAA tournament. That was a year that changed, honestly, a whole lot for the Razorback basketball program.
It didn't help. It didn't hurt them that there was like was that a 15-2 upset?
Yeah, it was, and they beat Florida. So they, but I mean, they also had to play a Texas Tech team that it is crazy to look at that roster now and see all the NBA guys that were on that Texas Tech roster. And then Colgate, that was fun to talk to players about, was that first round game against Colgate, because Colgate was kind of like an unknown team that year. It's like the metrics kind of loved them, but they'd only played, I guess the policy of their conference or whatever, they didn't play games in November, December. So they started playing, it honestly looks like a baseball schedule. They started in January, and they would play their conference opponents like 2 or 3 times over one weekend, just back-to-back days. And then they go to the next. So they came into the tournament at like 14-1, but could just shoot the crap out of the ball. Had the number 1 3-point shooter in the country. And man, they lit up Arkansas early in that game, and we're talking trash, hitting players with the too small sign. And then a fun detail that I loved, doing the story was in the middle of the game, Devo Davis and Justin Smith, who were really big in that game, they just kind of huddled at the free throw line and said, "Hey, we're going to press these guys." And it was not muscle like that was not an Eric Musselman move, but he gave players, I think, a little bit of the freedom to adjust on the fly. But I think that it shocked him talking to them he's like, "What are y'all doing?" That they came out and started pressing Colgate full court man to man, and that's when the game changed because Colgate had not seen athletes like that. So yeah, it's just there were a lot of fun little details I found writing that story, and I think that was a team that we'll look back on a long time from now, and it's kind of the turning point for this program. I think it had been a long time since it had been the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
Yeah, for sure. It's a trend-setting team. The other story that you were working on this week was you talked to Kareem Reed about Darius Acuff, and I know because you and I talked about kind of what the story would be. What ended up, what you ended up coming away with as a story out of that certainly was not what you thought you were going to get out of Kareem Reed.
No, not at all. I was just going to talk to him about his record falling. And, you always go into, a conversation with a former player. You don't know if they still really follow and watch the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a chance that, they've just they've gotten older, just kind of aren't as invested. But I started off asking him, like, have you been, watching these tournament games? Like, you still tuned into every Arkansas game? And he goes, "Man, are you serious?" He's like, "Oh yeah." Like, and so it was fun to hear from him that like, he's tuned in on every single Arkansas game, and he still really loves and follows the program. But yeah, it was crazy because I was just going to talk about his record falling, and then he goes on to tell me that he's friends with Allen Iverson. He lives in the Bronx, which is where he's from, and he's coaching at his alma mater, St. Raymond. It's a school for boys in the Bronx area. And he helps out with Allen Iverson's Classic that happens, beginning of May every year in Hampton, Virginia, which is where Allen Iverson's from. And of course, the wheels are starting to turn in my head as he's talking about this because Darius Acuff, there's been a ton of Allen Iverson comparisons made all year. It's one of the guys that Acuff has said he looks up to. And I knew Acuff would have been at that. So then we just got to talking, and he was like, "Yeah, I got to kind of coach and be around him for a whole week." And so that was really cool to hear Kareem Reed be able to talk about his experience being around Darius Acuff. And I asked him, like, did you get any chance to just, you knew he was going to your alma mater. You knew he was a really good player. Did you get a chance to maybe just impart some wisdom, advice, whatever on him? And he said, "Yeah, I mean, I knew he was really good." And so basically the advice was just go do things the right way. And this was the kind of, I guess, the punchiest quote of the whole story. He said, "And you'll be king."
Yeah.
And I guess we've seen that transpire that, if Darius Acuff came in and did things the right way, is doing things the right way. And he's kind of, these type of debates happen in years to come. You don't usually do them, I think, in the moment because it's not as fair. But I think that Darius Acuff will be very much in conversations about best seasons in program history. It's hard it's going to be hard to make the best player comparisons because there's you're comparing 1 year players to 4 and all this stuff now. But it's going to be hard to find a better season than the one that Darius Acuff is having. And so it's cool to hear that Kareem Reed kind of predicted it and got to spend time with him there.
I think it is the best season the Razorbacks ever had because you've got the scoring record, you've got the assist record, you've got the Player of the Year awards, the tournament MVP. We'll see what else is out there for him. And, by the way, he's going to be a, probably top 3 to 6 draft pick coming up here in a couple of months. One last thing, you were talking about Kareem Reed, and you wondered if they still keep up with the program. It's a different deal, because Kareem, he was actually in the program for 5 years. He redshirted that national runner-up season when they had Corliss and Scotty in that group, and they went to Seattle and lost to UCLA. And then he played 4 years at Arkansas. It's just a different thing than what you've got now, where you're here for 1 year, maybe 2. If you're at a college now for 2 years, it feels like the old you were there for 4 years.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just a totally different time. Kareem Reed was one of the, I think I was counting him up. He was the program's 10th McDonald's All-American they signed. So it was like, he was a really early, just like prized recruit in the program's history. And it's somebody who, you just don't see that anymore where you get a guy that this highly touted and they last that long at the same program because number one, if they do that, it probably means that they didn't really pan out how their ratings were. And you look at Kareem Reed, what he did, and that's certainly not the case. He definitely panned out. He's second all-time SEC in assists career. But it's just a different time where if you're that good, you're off to professional ranks pretty quick. And that's what makes it so hard to make these comparisons now because Darius Acuff, if he was a 4-year Arkansas basketball player, like who knows what records would happen, would break. I mean, we're talking about best season. If you're doing stuff that only Pete Maravich has done before in SEC history, going to be pretty hard to say it's not the best season ever. But Kareem Reed, but when you look at complete careers, it's hard to say that there's been, that many just better passer. There's not been a better passer in Arkansas program history. He leads the program in career assists. That what all he did over his career was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, he got to play with the guy who broke the SEC record for 3-point shots. That certainly helped his numbers too. You can read.
And that's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what he told me. He said I had 700-something career assists, and I always joke with Pat Bradley that he's responsible for 500, and I joke with Derek Hood he's responsible for another 200 with some alley-oop lobs. So that was pretty cool.
Yep, that sounds about right. That sounds like about that era. You can read Ethan's story, by the way. It's on our website at wholehogsports.com. The headline says, long before breaking Kareem Reed's Arkansas basketball assist record, Darius Acuff got his advice. It's good. It's worth your read there today about that Kareem Reed, Darius Acuff connection. Ethan, appreciate your time. Hope you enjoy San Jose. You can read all of Ethan's coverage. Anthony Christensen's there too. Hank Layton there as well at our website, wholehogsports.com. Again, they'll have stories today. Tomorrow is kind of the media day ahead of the Sweet 16, and then obviously game Thursday. We'll have plenty of content Thursday and Friday, and who knows, if they win Thursday, we'll have content from San Jose into the weekend. Arkansas right on the doorstep. Can they beat Arizona? Can they knock off the 1 seed from the region and get to the Elite Eight? We're going to find out in a couple of days. Appreciate you being with us. We'll see you on our next podcast. Have a great day.